The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, and in that single moment, everything changed. What began as an elegant anniversary celebration at the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant became the night that exposed a dangerous secret. Because when powerful tech mogul Marcus Brennan raised his hand and struck his pregnant wife across the face in front of 50 witnesses, he didn't know that the man watching from across the room was not just any security consultant. He was Daniel Rivers, former Special Operations Officer and the woman's estranged brother who had just returned to the city after 10 years. What followed was a battle that would shake the foundations of power, reveal buried truths, and prove that sometimes justice arrives when you least expect it. Stay with us until the end because this story will leave you breathless. Tell us in the comments what time you're watching and where you're from. We want to hear your voice. The slap echoed like a gunshot through the crystal chandeliers and designer silence of the Azure Sky restaurant. For 3 seconds, no one moved. The orchestra stopped mid-note. Waiters froze with trays suspended in air. And Isabella Brennan pressed her trembling hand against her burning cheek, her 7-month pregnant belly visible beneath her elegant dress, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes but refusing to fall. Marcus stood over her, his face twisted with cold rage. "Pick up your purse," he hissed through clenched teeth, "and stop embarrassing me in front of these people." The murmurs began slowly, like distant thunder. Phones emerged from pockets and purses. Cameras turned toward the couple at table 12. This was no ordinary domestic dispute. This was Marcus Brennan, the billionaire CEO whose face graced magazine covers, whose companies employed thousands, whose charitable foundations won awards. And he had just revealed the monster behind the mask. Isabella bent slowly, her pregnancy making every movement difficult. The baby kicked as if sensing her distress. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Not here, not in front of everyone." "You should have thought of that before questioning me," Marcus said, his voice dripping with venom as he cut into his steak. "Happy anniversary, darling." It had been like this for their entire 3-year marriage. Every dinner, every conversation, every moment was a performance of control. He chose her clothes, her friends, her words. She had learned that silence was survival. But tonight, when she told him the doctor recommended bed rest for the baby's health, when she dared to suggest she might need to step back from his public events, he had gripped her wrist under the table until she gasped. And when she said, "I'm your wife, not your employee," he had answered with violence. Then a shadow fell across their table. Daniel Rivers stood there in his security consultant uniform, tall and still, his presence commanding the space around him. His eyes scanned his sister's face, the red handprint, the unshed tears, the way she held herself as if trying to disappear. Then he looked at the man seated across from her. "Isabella," Daniel said quietly, each word carrying the weight of military discipline. "Are you all right?" His voice was calm, but everyone in the restaurant understood that something far more dangerous than anger filled that calm. Marcus looked up with a condescending smile. "This is a private matter. Return to your post." The silence deepened. People leaned forward in their seats. Daniel didn't move. "I asked my sister a question. I'd like to hear her answer." The color drained from Marcus's face. "Sister." "Isabella, do you want to leave?" Daniel asked, never breaking eye contact with the other man. "She's fine," Marcus snapped, standing abruptly. His chair scraped against the floor. "How dare you interfere with my wife?" Daniel took one step closer. His posture was relaxed, but anyone who knew combat recognized the coiled readiness in his stance. "Sir, I wasn't speaking to you." The restaurant erupted in whispers. Phones recorded every moment. This was no longer just a domestic incident. This was a confrontation between power and protection, between cruelty and courage. Marcus's face flushed red. "Do you know who I am? I could have you fired with one phone call. This restaurant will lose its license tomorrow." "I know exactly who you are," Daniel replied evenly. "You're a man who just struck a pregnant woman in front of witnesses." The words hung in the air like an indictment. Someone in the crowd began to clap. Others joined, not in celebration of violence, but in recognition of truth. Marcus lunged forward, shoving Daniel's chest. "You don't tell me what I—" He never finished the sentence. Daniel caught his wrists mid-push and held them firmly, applying just enough pressure to stop the aggression without causing injury. Years of training made the movement almost casual. "Listen carefully," Daniel said, his voice dropping to a whisper only Marcus could hear. "You will never touch my sister again, not tonight, not ever, do you understand?" Marcus tried to pull away, but the grip was iron. "This is assault. I'll have you arrested." "What you did was assault," Daniel replied. "What I'm doing is restraint." The sirens began in the distance. Someone had called the police. The restaurant manager appeared, pale and shaking, confirming that security footage had captured everything. Marcus's arrogance finally cracked. He looked around at the sea of phones, the judgmental faces, the recording devices that would make this moment immortal on the internet. His empire, built on image and influence, was crumbling in real time. The police arrived minutes later. As they took statements, a young woman stood up from her table. "I recorded everything," she announced loudly. "Every word, every action, there's no question what happened here." Others echoed her testimony: the elderly couple at table 8, the journalist at the bar, the mother of 3 who was visiting from out of town. All of them refused to look away, refused to stay silent. As the officers escorted Marcus toward the exit in handcuffs, Daniel turned to Isabella and offered his hand. "Let's go home, Bella. You're safe now." She took it with trembling fingers, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt the weight of fear begin to lift. Her brother had come back. After a decade of silence between them, after years of her thinking she had no one, he had appeared exactly when she needed him most. Outside, the city lights sparkled against the night sky. The wind carried the scent of rain and new beginnings. As the police car drove away, Isabella placed both hands on her belly and felt her daughter kick strongly, as if celebrating freedom. Daniel wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. "I'm sorry I wasn't there sooner." "You're here now," she whispered. "That's what matters." The cameras kept recording, but this time they captured something different. Not scandal, but strength. Not shame, but survival. The image of a woman walking away from her abuser, protected by someone who refused to let violence win, became a symbol that spread across every screen in the country by morning. In the weeks that followed, Marcus Brennan's empire collapsed. Business partners withdrew. Investors fled. The foundation of lies could not withstand the weight of truth. And in a small apartment across the city, Isabella began to heal, surrounded by her brother's protection and her mother's love, preparing to welcome a daughter who would never know fear as a way of life. 3 months later, Isabella held her newborn daughter for the first time. She named her Grace, after the grandmother who had taught her that dignity could never be taken, only surrendered. Daniel stood by the hospital window, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold. "Welcome to the world, little Grace. You arrived just in time to remind us that every ending is also a beginning." And as the morning light filled the room, Isabella understood something profound. Justice doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it appears in the quiet courage of speaking truth. Sometimes it comes in the form of someone who refuses to walk away. Sometimes it's simply the decision to say, "No more." If this story touched your heart, we want to hear from you. Have you or someone you love ever found the courage to stand up against injustice? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you believe that every person deserves to live without fear, share this video. Let it reach someone who needs to know they're not alone. Because silence protects abusers, but truth sets survivors free. What will you choose today?